Ted, what on earth are you doing?
Practicing.
Practicing what, man? You've got our table all cluttered.
This.
Whoa! But dude, can we just knock it off and shoot our video already?
Fine. Since you can't do magic, let's just do some theorycraft on building a summoner for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons.
Welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds. I'm Nerdarchy Steve, and as usual, I'm hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchist Ted.
If you want to summon us every time there's a new Nerdarchy video, make sure you click that subscribe button.
Pass those concentration checks with ease by clicking that notification bell so you don't miss a single video.
So, summoning, theorycraft, 5e is really tough when it comes to summoning monsters. Before we talk about a summoner, we want to summon up our sponsor for this video, 2C Gaming. They've got an awesome Kickstarter going on right now for the Total Party Kill Bestiary 2 TPK. The thing with these is it's all monsters that are CR10 and above. You know, they're bringing the bloodbath to your players. It's like playing D&D on the hardcore mode, but they don't overcomplicate things. You still have simple, clean stat blocks that you know and love from 5th edition. They do a great job with it. I mean, they've even put out their legendary series, which is basically epic levels 21 through 30. So they've got a lot of experience with running these high level games. And what they're bringing to 5e is, you know, the ability for DMs to have the ease to run those same high level games at their own tables.
You know, they've been, fans and friends of the channel for a while. We've talked to them at many different conventions. They sponsored a lot of videos, and I've used their products. I've used their monsters in games and sessions in the past. Really like what they put out. So I can't see them doing anything but the greatness that they've already done before.
So if you want more monsters for your game, go down to the description, check out that Kickstarter. With that, let's talk about summoning in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. For the most part, it's not great.
It is really difficult. You have to look at, there's going to be a number of different ways that you can achieve summoning, whether you're talking about through the use of a spell, through a character class ability, through a feat, or through magic items.
Now, I say that tongue-in-cheek because I've played all the editions, and summoning in earlier editions is just bonkers. You could just have tons of creatures going at the same time, and there was no limits. There's a reason why it's not the way it used to be. It's like in previous editions, it's like, oh, the summoner, conjurer type characters, it's their turn. Everyone else might as well take dinner break, because they have to roll for themselves and each of their creatures, and it just takes forever. So 5e, with the way concentration works, they've really cleaned that up a lot. So yeah, we're going to look at class features. We're going to look at feats. We're going to look at spells. And then we're going to look at magic items. And with those, you'll have all the tools in your arsenal to build the best summoner you can build for 5e D&D. So first up, you have the Circle of the Shepherd Druid. They get bonuses when it comes to conjuring and summoning. When you summon Fae or beast creatures, they add additional hit points. Their attacks are magical, so they get some buffs there. In addition, we also have the Sorcerer. Any Sorcerer will do, actually, because with the Extend spell, that makes the duration of your conjured creatures, your summons, twice as long for a single sorcery point. That's pretty good.
The Shadow Magic Sorcerer is going to get the ability to summon the Hound of Ill Omen. So that is something else that you get to put onto the board. And the Pact of the Chains Warlock gets access to a familiar.
Now, the Warlock can also get an invocation called Minions of Chaos. It's a prereq of 9th level, and that gives them access to Conjure Elemental, but they still have to use one of their slots to use it, and they can only cast that spell once per day.
And the last, but certainly not least, is the Conjuration Wizard actually gets 2 abilities. Number one, at a certain level, they're going to be able to not lose concentration on a spell by taking damage. Super helpful to keep your minions around or under your control, depending upon the spell, as well as the ability to gain 30 temporary hit points to everything that you summon.
So right there, you have a couple of choices to make a better summoner. And also you might want to look at some multi-class options in order to kind of mix and match. Personally, the Shadow Sorcerer and the Conjuration Wizard are already standing out to me.
All right, so we have 4 feats that are going to apply to this, and they're all going to be linked to a couple of different effects. So Magic Initiate, a favorite feat of mine, I've taken it with numerous different casters, is going to allow you to grab that Find Familiar spell so that you've got a familiar even if you're not a class that would normally get access to one. But if you happen to be a summoner and you don't happen to get proficiency in your Constitution saving throws, Resilient is going to give you that. So therefore, you're going to have that better chance of passing those checks.
Ritual Caster, again, we mentioned Find Familiar. Ritual Caster is actually kind of a little bit better way to get it, and you get some other benefits of it. And then we have Warcaster. Again, nothing sucks more than conjuring creatures and then losing your concentration and having them dismissed.
Or worse, having them, turn against you.
Or having them turn against you, depending on what you're doing. So having advantage on those concentration saving throws is a great idea.
Next, we're going to move into our spells category. And for this, we have 13 spells that directly call a thing into being that you get to kind of guide and control.
Yeah, at first level, Find Familiar, we've already brought that one up. That one's cool in the sense that it is not a conjuration spell, but there's only so many things that you can do with that conjured creature.
It's a wizard spell, and you're going to be able to grab something that is a celestial fiend. It's a first level spell. It's wizard. It's going to make the creature a celestial, a fiend, or a fae. So it's pretty awesome that you get to kind of like mold and create this thing that is your familiar.
Second level, we also have a spell, Find Steed. Paladins are the only ones that can cast that spell. With some outliers, there's some ways you could get it. And again, that steed is actually celestial, fiend, or fae.
So third level, we have Conjure Animals and Summon Lesser Demons.
Conjure Animals is you're going to create a fae creature. Druid or Ranger can do that. Lesser Demons, it's a fiend. It's always going to be a fiend. And that is going to be Warlock or a Wizard. But summoning the demons are a little bit tougher because once at the end, you can lose control. During, you can lose control. They're not exactly under your control the same way other summoned creatures are. You
bring them here, and they might choose to stay, and they might do things that they want to do, not what you want them to do.
Right. So that one's a little bit trickier.
So Conjure Woodland Beings is going to get you some fae, and go figure, Conjure Minor Elementals is going to get you elementals.
Conjure Minor Elementals is Druid Wizard. Conjure Woodland Beings is Druid Ranger.
Fifth level, we have 2 spells. First up is Conjure Elemental. It's Druid Wizard. You've got the ability to conjure a full-blown elemental, and you pick your type, and it does what you want as long as you maintain concentration.
You mentioned that we get another one, and that is Infernal Calling. That is going to be Warlock and Wizard as well. And instead of calling a demon, you call a devil, which it's the same kind of restrictions, but at least with devils, they're a little bit easier to bargain with.
So do you get their cell phone number? Is that the way that works?
Yeah, they start texting you in the middle of the night. You're getting booty calls. It's a mess.
So 6th level, we have another 2 spells. This one, we have Conjure Fae. This is obviously going to summon a Fae creature, but a much more potent version, and that is for Druid and Warlock.
Next up, we have Planar Ally. That is an elemental or celestial creature that is only a cleric. And this one is noteworthy for the fact that it does not require concentration. But again, you're going to summon, this celestial elemental. You're going to beseech them. And I think you got to basically bribe them, and then they'll do stuff for you. Depending on what you want them to do and how long it takes them to do it determines how much it costs you, because they have a minute rate, a 10-minute rate, and an hourly rate, and like a daily rate. So, roaming charges may apply as well.
7th level, we only have one that's going to fall into this, and it's going to be Conjure Celestial, and that's Cleric. And what do you figure? It's Conjure Celestial. You're getting a celestial creature.
So we kind of have like an other category for spells, and there's only 4 of them. Magic Circle is a 3rd level spell. That is going to be Cleric, Paladin, Warlock, and Wizard. The reason why this is really important, if you're summoning creatures, you can actually create an inverted circle, summoning them into it, and trap them for other reasons.
Well, if you're going to be a summoner, sometimes you might lose control, and they start doing things that you don't want. So it's good to be able to have a defense against that one, and that brings us to Banishment. And all of your full casters, minus Bard, get access to this. So you got a lot of options if you want to just be like, fine, go away.
Okay, so Banishment was a 4th level spell. Then for 5th level, we have Dispel Good and Evil. And you can get that if you're a Cleric or a Paladin. For the same reasons you want Banishment, you might want the spell around as well.
But you mentioned Magic Circle of, trapping them to try and do something to them. And for that, you might want to use Planar Binding. And this is going to be a Bard, Cleric, Druid, and Wizard spell, so you can have a little bit of fun and try to trap that thing that you've summoned and issue it with some commands.
Yeah, well, what it's going to do is actually it's going to extend out the duration of your conjurations and keep your conjures for much longer, so you can have some minions to keep around. And really, if you're going to be a conjurer or summoner type character, you're going to really need to use this as much as possible because of the concentration rules. That with things like extend spell from the sorcerer, I think would be like super helpful. So next up, we came up with 12 magic items that allow you to conjure and summon creatures. And that's not even breaking down into the subtypes, because when you get into the Figurine of Wondrous Power, there's a bunch of different kinds.
Right. So a lot of these are not going to require attunement. So we actually found that one of the best ways to be a summoner is to just hoard a bunch of these magic items so that you can be like, all right, well, I'm going to pull out this thing and dump the creature out. I'm going to pull out this thing and I'm going to dump the creature out. And as long as they wind up surviving and, you just move on for the duration.
So first up, we have a Bag of Tricks and a Bowl of Commanding Water Elementals.
We have a Brazier of Commanding Fire Elementals and a Censer of Controlling Air Elementals.
So next up, we have an elemental gem, which is consumable. Use it once, boom, summon the elemental. And as we mentioned earlier, there is the Figurine of Wondrous Powers. There's actually 9 different varieties.
So a lot of different options there, and a lot of them are pretty easy to obtain. So we have the Horn of the Endless Maze and the Horn of Valhalla. Both, you just give them a blow and, you get to summon cool stuff.
So there's a caveat to both of those, right? They both summon berserkers. One is berserker minotaurs and the other is just berserkers. And, they come in different flavors, especially for the Horn of Valhalla. And depending, what type it is, the more powerful it is. But they have requirements, and they're like weapon proficiencies and armor proficiencies and things of that nature. And if you don't have them and you blow the horn, they attack you.
Yeah, they're fun, especially if you don't, give the players the caveat of, what their limitations are. It's like, oh, you can summon things. Great. Okay.
Buyer beware when you have 20 berserkers wailing on the wizard. We have 3 more magic items. They all require attunement. The first up is the Ring of Genie Summoning. This is pretty kick-ass.
Got the Robe of Serpents and the Staff of the Python.
Now, the Robe of Serpents has a certain number of basically snakes on it, and as you use them, they do not refill. So once you're out of snakes, you're out of snakes.
So that's, it's one of those weird ones. It requires attunement and has a limited feature. That's not something that's pretty common in 5th edition.
So like I said earlier on, I think at a glance, I would probably either, depending on what flavor I want. Druid is really strong for your summons and your conjurations. But, I do like the idea of a 6th level sorcerer, 14th level conjuration wizard. I think that's going to be really strong.
All right, so let me ask you this question. If you go with the conjuration wizard, who's got that everything you summon gets the temporary hit points, and you use a magic item to summon something, would it get the extra 30 hit points?
I would have to go back and reread the exact wording, whether or not it says when you cast the spell,
okay,
or whether it says when you conjure a creature. If it says when you conjure a creature, then it would absolutely get those. If it says when you cast a spell, activating a magic item is not casting a spell.
5th edition is very, very particular about their specific wording. So yeah,
we might have to pray to JC to figure this out.
Yes, Jeremy Crawford, can you answer this question?
If you enjoyed this Theorycraft video, you can check out our Staff Master video up here.
Speaking of summoning, you can summon new 5th edition content every month by joining us over on Patreon.
We also do Patreon-only live chats, monthly giveaways that our patrons are automatically entered in, and more.
So until next time, stay nerdy.